In this video, we're going to talk about how my switch from CrossFit to endurance training has affected my Whoop stats and how I use the Whoop to help accelerate and improve and just keep me going. Look at this, 7:40-minute mile. 6 weeks ago, I was running 10-minute miles. Let's get into it.
So for the past few years, my main mode of fitness has been CrossFit, and I really push myself. But when there's some sort of life-changing event, whether it's involuntary, like I put my mental health video out there about having my father pass, or you're specifically changing your mode of fitness, is really when it hits you in the face why these 24/7 fitness trackers are so valuable. Otherwise, you get really into your rhythm and it becomes more passive looking at it. And a lot of people just drop off of using it because they just don't see value. When really what we're supposed to do is look at it. You see things like your caloric expenditure go down or your cardiovascular strain score go down on the Whoop strap. And that's telling you, hey, you can push harder. You should push harder. You're getting more fit. And a lot of people don't like to hear that because it is really tough to continually push yourself over time. So I want to talk about, because I specifically changed from CrossFit to endurance, what I'm doing and what I'm focused on. So the journal entries are not really something that I personally fill out every single day. I am more on the passive side when I'm using this device. I don't want it to run my life. I think there's a perfect balance, and I've done a video on this as well, of using the data of the fitness tracker and living your life and really feeling what you want to do to push yourself. I don't want to get inundated in the data, paralysis by analysis and all that. And people just get really mentally unhealthy being too into the data. I'm not into that. But what I do focus on are a few key metrics. And I love that Whoop gives you a weekly outlook, because I like to look things on a weekly basis. Like I only weigh myself on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, and I only look at the data overall on a weekly basis. And I really want that instead of the monthly. And when I switched over from CrossFit, which is a high stressor on the body, but not as stressful as these long endurance workouts, training for a marathon, moving towards Ironman training, I really needed to see what I'm doing. So the first glaring thing, which makes sense, is caloric expenditure. Everyone knows, or should know by this time, that the caloric expenditure measurements on fitness trackers are highly inaccurate. I will say that like my standard maintenance calories when I'm just doing CrossFit, probably around the 2,800 to 2,900 realm. I'm 6 foot, 200 pounds, 13% body fat. But when I switched over to endurance training, I'm in that realm anywhere from 3,100 to 3,500 based on what my training schedule load is going to be. When I'm going for like a long 10 plus mile run, I'm swimming and I'm biking. So I really have to keep an eye on that. And that's something that has significantly changed. So in conjunction with that, as has my cardiovascular strain score of the Whoop. On average, my body was just staying relatively flat, staying at most, I would get into that 14-point realm, but now I'm well north of that, hitting like 18s. And then this trend over time, something I've seen with my strain score, is it is trending downwards. So my endurance training is actually working. All this zone 2 training, all of the new stuff that I'm learning and trying to get my body to adapt to, which tells me, again, now I can push harder on my tempo runs, on my speed work, where I'm really pushing my heart rate and follow the training plan. It's working. So it's amazing to see with that downward trend line that I'm actually getting more fit in the endurance realm. It's a long road ahead, but it's something that's amazing. Sleep performance is also increased, and I guess because I'm just probably really tired. And lastly, no red days. So I'm being well nourished, making sure I'm eating enough food, and I'm sleeping well. And I'm doing ice baths, I'm getting massages, and making sure everything I'm doing is so I can go farther, I can go faster, and I can go longer, because I know one of the big things with endurance training is when you stress out the body, people get sick, people get hurt, and I'm doing everything I can to monitor my data on my Whoop strap and making sure that I don't hit a wall and bonk out and I just can't go any farther. Now, the other last thing to touch on is the rest of my data is not changing. That's an amazing and great thing to see, meaning my body just feels like it's always has, and I'm doing again everything else to make sure that I'm staying incredibly healthy.
It's really hard to film yourself when you're biking. I don't know if this gets